March 1st, 2020. Joe here at Simple Life Show, where the simplest answers are usually the best. The Democrats are constantly cannibalizing themselves. They're just ripping each other to shreds. And of course, this is only to the delight of the Republicans and Trump, who are just sitting back and watching them destroy themselves. Elizabeth Warren recently doing a lot of the debates that she has just completely ripped to shreds Bloomberg. Bloomberg is not doing well. I assume that he'll be out of this entire race here pretty soon. But here she is throwing Bernie under the bus now. She is really just going after everyone.
Demands more than a senator who has good ideas, but whose 30-year track record shows he consistently calls for things that fail to get done and consistently opposing things that nevertheless he fails to stop.
So what Elizabeth Warren is really saying here, obviously, is that Bernie Sanders just doesn't pass anything. Well, the fact of the matter is that Elizabeth Warren doesn't pass anything. She has only passed a handful of bills, two, in fact, in her entire tenure as a senator. Now, she is aware of the fact that people know this, and she has put up her own page, part of her candidates, part of her website for her candidacy for president or the Democratic nomination. And she has so-called laid to rest this entire thing by mentioning 12 bills, 12 bills over her decades of experience in the Senate and what she has passed. Unfortunately, the majority of those are part of the NDAA Authorization Act, which are just simply riders that are just jam-packed in there, part of pork belly that the Democrats are putting in there to try to get things passed. So they're not passing based on their own merit. They're not passing. The bill itself is not passing on its own merit. The only thing that she has passed on its own merit is a handful of bills, one or two, over her period of time in the Senate that have passed on their own merit. So this is a fabrication. This is a lie. We all know that Bernie Sanders has only passed two bills, I believe, concerning the renaming of a post office or something. I mean, the Democrats really just don't have a lot of experience. They have a wealth of experience, but they don't at the same time. So that's what we have to choose from. And I'm not saying we, because I'm not voting for Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden or any of them for that matter, because I just simply can't vote for a socialist that likes to be cozying up to ruthless dictators. Now, I do agree with a lot of things that Bernie Sanders says about fiscal responsibility and spending our tax dollars in the best way possible, and not spending it all on war purposes and weapons of destruction and so forth, because I just don't think that moves a society forward. If you really think that war moves a society forward, then you should really evaluate your own humanity, because you're lacking, because that does not move a society forward in any way, shape, or form. This is from Ipsos here, that Bernie Sanders and the establishment's last stand. Some are saying that Trump and Sanders are really the only anti-establishment candidates left, and would obviously form a good dichotomy choice in the next election coming up. I agree with that. However, like I said in a lot of videos, is that if Bernie Sanders does not get the nomination, we are going to see rage and probably a civil war type of like reaction to Bernie Sanders being gypped on the nomination. He is leading in almost every single poll going into Super Tuesday. So if he does not win the plurality of delegates going after Super Tuesday, there is going to be some head scratching, and there's going to be some eye rolls. There's going to be a lot of questioning that's going on with what's really happening here. So if he does not end up getting the nomination, we are going to see a lot of issues. If he does, then we're going to see a further separation of the population as far as the ideology. We're going to have people who are, drinking the Trump Kool-Aid, and they're going to have people drinking the Bernie Sanders and the socialism Kool-Aid. There's a lot of people that are for Medicare for all. I happen to be one of those people. I think that we really need to focus on healthcare. Now, I could be wrong as far as the whole cost goes. That's something that we really need to look into. We need to stop with this whole it's going to cost this, and all of our taxes are going to go up and all this kind of stuff. We really need to look at how this could all work. Other countries are doing this. Yes, they are not as efficient, but at the same time, we also have a country where people are going bankrupt and they're losing their homes, they're losing their houses, they are killing themselves due to the medical bills that they have. We have to do something about this. This is not something that you can just sweep under the rug and scream capitalism and scream Trump and make America great again and everything will go away. That is simply not what's going to happen. We can't ignore these issues going forward. We have to solve them. We have to come together, and it has to be bipartisan. Joe Biden was recently in the news calling, making up new words. His new word is called TRANSPANDEMIC. I don't know what that means. He's referring to the Ebola outbreak that happened not too long ago that he had a hand in, not of course making it, but also helping to mitigate a lot of the damage from that. But here he is talking about that, and we'll discuss it for a brief time.
As you know, is calling the Democrats' critique of his response a hoax. How would the overall response to this virus have been different if you were president?
Would have been fundamentally different. We set up a whole system on the Ebola virus and with the Ebola disease that we were all concerned about, a trans-pandemic disease that existed. And look, right now, you have this president hasn't allowed his scientists to speak, number one. He has the vice president speaking, not the scientists who know what they're talking about, like Fauci. Number two, they haven't even prepared a test kit to determine whether or not anybody has the virus. They're not even available. They say now they'll be available by the end of the week or next week. They haven't set up a pattern on how to proceed. They've cut the funding for the CDC. They've cut the Center for Disease Control. They've cut the funding they've tried to.
So Biden just kind of goes on and on about this test kit. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but this whole trans pandemic, I don't even know. I had to actually look that up. It's not a real word. It's not associated with really anything. So yeah, it looked like towards the end he tries to say trans pandemic again. The problem with Joe Biden is that his brain just doesn't work that well. He's just kind of off in his kind of delusionary type of world where he just kind of makes stuff up. He's just kind of always stumbling over himself. He doesn't look very presidential. And of course, you can make the same argument about Trump, how he kind of it doesn't really sound presidential either. And I would have to agree with you. He doesn't sound like your typical politician, but at the same time, that's why people voted for Trump, because he isn't your typical politician. I voted for him. I'm still happy with, a lot of the things that he's doing. There's some of the things that he's not doing that I'm really, really upset about, and, we're not going to get into all of that right now, but this is just simply about, the response to the coronavirus. And he's talking about the test kits, and what he's referring to is the nucleic acid test kits that they're using over in China and over in South Korea, where there's actually testing the DNA of people to actually see whether they have the markers for this disease. Yes, we should be doing that. Now, it's not technically as bad over here, but we don't know that yet. Okay, this has the coronavirus has an incubation period of time of 2 weeks up to 4 weeks, so we really won't know until probably over the next few weeks on how bad it is. And once we see the actual real numbers as they reveal themselves, and that just means that it's spreading even faster. So we have to play catch up, and that's where the problem arises with actually containing these things, because you just simply can't quarantine everyone and say, okay, everybody stay in your house, don't go to work or anything like that. We know there's probably people out there with the coronavirus, and they're probably spreading it right now at this moment, but we can't at the same time go around and test everyone, because we don't have enough test kits. We don't have enough of these things to do that. So Joe Biden is completely wrong when it comes to this, because we're not at that point yet. That's why we haven't actually done that. Now, Trump has said, over the course of the last few days that he has asked for an additional $2 or $3 billion to combat the coronavirus. And I think that's a good thing. Of course, that will go into test kits and other quarantine type of things that we can do for people. And I think that we should be mimicking what they're doing in South Korea, but they are also losing that war as well, like I've mentioned before. But this is just kind of a pandering. This is kind of just talking out of the side of your mouth and making up words, as Joe Biden really likes to do. There's no such thing as a trans pandemic. I don't know what he's talking about. Trans fats. I really don't know. A pandemic is just a pandemic. And that's just where we're at right now. So I'll see you in the next video. Have a great one. Bye.